Congressional Candidate Derek Merrin is joining me on the Scott Sand Show. Derek, great to have you back on.
Hey, Scott. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for having me on.
I'm great. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us. First things first, before we get into some serious issues, I talked to Kevin Coughlin earlier this week. I don't know if you're aware of this. Kevin's a BGSU guy, and we've got the Battle of I-75 next Saturday in the Glass Bowl. I think there needs to be a wager between you and Kevin on this game.
Well, hey, I'll take a wager. You know, I did graduate from BG too, but I'm a Rocket man.
I thought you were a UT guy. I thought I remembered you being a Toledo Rocket.
I am. I'm picking UT though. Go Rockets.
You know what district you're in. That's a smart man. A lot of stuff to cover. A lot of stuff to cover today. The IDF apparently has taken out the mastermind behind the October 7th attack last year. It's a good day, I think, for Israel and the United States, and a bad day for the terrorists of Hamas. Your thoughts on this news of the day?
Well, Israel's the only democracy that we have in the Middle East, and certainly continue to pray for the hostages that are still being held over there and everything that Israel's going to. We need peace in that region. And I don't know if you remember when Marcy Kaptur actually got on air a couple months ago. She was, condemning Benjamin Netanyahu and was somewhat lamenting the fact that Hamas was even considered and designated as a terrorist organization. And you remember 20 years ago, Scott, when Marcy Kaptur was complaining and comparing Osama bin Laden to America's founding fathers? I mean, can you believe that? Where does your head have to be to get that twisted that much around?
Yeah, I don't remember that. I wasn't here 20 years ago, but I've heard the stories. And obviously, this area does have a large Lebanese population. Are you concerned about any alienation of that voter base?
No, I think we need peace. We need peace in the Middle East, and these terrorist groups are taking advantage of Israel, but they're taking advantage of a lot of the Arab population and people. There's a lot of good people over there that want peace, and you can't have peace when you have terrorists leading your government and trying to wipe out an entire nation and group of people.
Yeah, not everyone who lives in Gaza or who lives in Lebanon, or for that matter in the Middle East, is a terrorist or someone who hates the United States or Israel, but because of groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS and Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, they're all suffering. And peace would be to the best advantage of everyone who lives in that region. And unfortunately, because of the terrorist attitudes who want to eradicate Israel, the only way to reach that peace, I believe, is through strength and through eliminating the threat of Hamas and Hezbollah and the others.
Well, I agree. It's pretty hard it's hard to come to a compromise with an organization that number one stated issue is to destroy you, to kill you. I mean, you can't negotiate with terrorists that sole goal is to wipe you off the face of the earth. That's the reality of it. And we certainly need peace over there, and hope we can get it. And I hope Israel and their neighbors can live in peace.
We're talking to Derek Merrin here on the Scott Sand Show. He's running in Ohio's 9th to finally fire Marcy Kaptur after 42 some odd years in office. A lot of people today obviously are talking about last night's interview between Bret Baier and Kamala Harris, and the focus of the interview, or at least part of it, and one of the more contentious moments, was over immigration, a topic, even though we're in Ohio, illegal immigration affects all of us. So we're dealing with human trafficking issues in Northwest Ohio, and obviously the opioid and fentanyl epidemic have hit our area especially hard.
Well, Marcy Kaptur, is fully in support of what Harris and Biden have done, and as you saw last night, Harris was doubling down that they're proud of what they've done, and what they've done is let over 10 million people come into our country illegally. They've allowed the Mexican drug cartels to have full operational control of the border. They're allowing drugs to flow into Northwest Ohio at a neck break speed. We have, our national article came out maybe a month ago when we have, 15 to 16,000 people that are illegal immigrants that have actually been convicted of murder that are still in our country. Well over 10,000 people convicted of rape, convicted, and they're still in this country. It is just outrageous. Scott, I was actually in a parade a couple weeks ago, and I had a woman run up to me afterwards. I didn't know if she was going to be a friend or foe. She run up to me and had told me, she had tears in her eyes and told me that her daughter had been raped by an illegal immigrant. And it was a young girl, and her heart was just breaking. And she said, when you hear people say that this stuff isn't happening, it is. She says, you got to believe me. And I said, this is why I'm running for Congress. We've got to put Americans first. And what we have Marcy Kaptur doing, caring more about illegal immigrants than her own people in Northwest Ohio, and it's a disgrace. And you look what she's doing to our union brothers and sisters. These guys are taking all types of jobs, and he's just turning her back on the people that have supported her for over decades.
Her policies and the policies of the Biden-Harris administration are killing jobs and allowing so many illegals to come into this country with drugs and committing crimes. I talked to Mike Rogers, who's running for Senate in Michigan the other day, and they're afraid that Stellantis may actually pull out of Detroit because of the Harris-Kaptur EV mandates.
Well, that's a really good point, Scott. The federal government trying to force these electric vehicles on everyone, and they're too expensive right now, and they would even be more expensive if the federal government wasn't subsidizing them. And when I say the federal government, that's the taxpayers. We're subsidizing them, and a lot of these U.S. car manufacturers are taking a loss on these vehicles, and it very likely, could really hurt the U.S. car manufacturers. The UAW members that have and organizations who many of them have supported Marcy Kaptur over the years. She is pushing these green energy mandates that are driving up the cost of energy, driving up the cost of vehicles, and just unsustainable. And you should. Marcy Kaptur won't come on your show and talk to you. She won't even have a debate with the Toledo Blade with me. What her real energy policies is, other than wanting everyone to drive electric cars. She wants to put, and they're coming, is windmills in Lake Erie, Scott. That's how she thinks she's going to solve the world's problem, is windmills in Lake Erie. So every time, you're boating around or trying to see the sunset, you got to be, weaving around, windmills.
It's actually more policy from Marcy Kaptur than I've ever heard directly from Marcy Kaptur. It's always appeared to me in the 10 years I've lived here that her biggest priority in office is getting reelected again.
Well, I'll give you that, Scott. You got me there. That is her number one priority, and that is herself. There's no doubt about that.
Derek Merrin on the Scott Sand Show. Go ahead.
One thing, even though her priority is herself, Scott, she's never been able to be a chairman of a committee in 41 years.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
Party,
that's odd.
Her own party. Yeah, her own party doesn't think enough of her to allow her to be the chairman of a committee. If you're going to serve in Congress for over 40 years, you might as well try to become the speaker, get in leadership or lead a major committee. And she can't even become a chairman of a committee. And that's why, you've seen recently where the 9th Congressional District ranks dead last in all the congressional districts in Ohio right now for federal money coming back, contracts, and, she's been working on that, that memorable coin, the $1 bill in the last 15 years, and we're paying a price for it in Northwest Ohio. There's no doubt about it.
Come on, Derek. I think she got a post office name or something, too.
Oh, she might have got a couple there. Can't forget about those.
DerekMerrin.com to learn more about Derek. He's running for Congress here in Ohio's 9th Congressional District. I think even though the immigration issue, which puts pressure on everything from housing and education and healthcare, crime and more, the top issue for most voters remains the economy. And every time we go into the store to buy something, either we're getting fewer potato chips in the bag or we're paying $2 more for a dozen eggs. And we've got to do something for the economy. We've got to create more jobs. We've got to raise the boats for everybody.
No, this is a pocketbook election, Scott. And I've said it many times, you can't take a family of 4 or 5 out to eat in Toledo, Ohio at a nice restaurant for under $100. And you go into restaurants right now, you don't see as many people there. You don't see as many families there. People can't afford this stuff. It's just way, way too expensive. You look at your car insurance bill recently, your home insurance bill. It's way too much. And what you're seeing right now is the federal government devaluing the U.S. dollar. We have $35 trillion worth of debt. When Marcy Kaptur came into office, it was $1 trillion. And we have to have fiscal responsibility and discipline. We got to balance the budget. You got to stop wasteful spending, and you got to get rid of so many federal mandates on the private sector, whether it being, vehicles, housing construction that drive up the cost of living. And, I feel bad. There's just a lot of people hurting right now.
It's interesting, Derek. You're the first candidate I've heard mention in a long time the declining attendance and patronage of restaurants, which has an amazing ripple effect because so many middle-class Americans are small business owners, and many of those small businesses are local diners, local restaurants. So if they fail, then those families lose their income, and dozens of people at each restaurant potentially lose their job. That's on top of the large corporations that we're seeing shutting down, whether it be the Darden Group shutting down some of their restaurants, or hundreds of 7-Eleven stores closing, hundreds of Ace Hardware stores closing, the pharmacies that are closing. People are losing their jobs because of this economy.
Nope, you're exactly right. And, think about our senior citizens, Scott, too. I mean, you look at the property tax increases, that are coming. You look at the Social Security and Medicare, where, those programs used to be a lot stronger in 1982 before Marcy Kaptur got there. And, Marcy Kaptur never put those Social Security contributions in a lockbox, never made sure they were protected. The money's got spent on other things. And, I think there's a lot of senior citizens that are very concerned that are on a fixed income. My mom's on a fixed income, Scott. And I know, you see senior citizens, they get nervous, they get concerned when they're on a fixed income and things start getting more expensive. And I just know, dealing with my mom, I feel bad for her, and I feel bad for other seniors in Northwest Ohio that are nervous, they're uneasy with the future. And the sad part is there is reasons to be uncertain. We're dealing with an administration and someone like Marcy Kaptur that want to live in fantasy land. I mean, we got people that care more about making sure men can play women's sports and men can walk into women's bathroom than securing the pocketbooks of Northwest Ohio. And that's why Marcy Kaptur is going to get beat in this district, because people are fed up with this nonsense. And they're fed up with illegal immigrants having a greater say and a priority in Northwest Ohio than their own American citizens.
We're talking to Derek Merrin. He's running for Congress here in Ohio's 9th. We're almost out of time here, but you mentioned something that I've seen stories calling this the sleeper issue of the campaign. I still contend that the economy is what people are going to go into the voting booth and vote on. But you talk about men playing in women's sports. That seems to be an issue that 6 to 9 months ago I would have said, yeah, this is a problem, we should address it. But it seems to be growing as an issue that many voters are concerned about.
No, it's a battle in all these school districts, and I think it just illustrates, Scott, just what the type of radical woke leftists that we're dealing with. I mean, just kind of when someone says they believe men should play women's sports, I mean, they're disagreeing with almost 90 to 95% of the population, and that's where Marcy Kaptur's at. Marcy Kaptur doesn't have the same values, Scott, as you and I do. She doesn't have the same values that 90% of well over 90% of people in Northwest Ohio. And that's why we bring these issues up, is to show everyone that Marcy Kaptur is not the same person that was originally elected in 1983. She's drifted with the radical left.
Quickly, what's the state of the campaign? We're less than 20 days away from Election Day, early voting underway in Ohio. How's the campaign going? Where do you stand right now?
I believe I'm ahead. We have really good polling results. The momentum is certainly in our favor. Marcy Kaptur has, she's reached her high of people that are willing to vote for her, and she's declining every week. We're pressing hard. I need all your listeners here that want change in Northwest Ohio, that want to save the greatest country in the history of the world, to go out and vote early. Bank your vote. We need help with phone banking. We need help going door to door. We're going to win, but it's going to be a close race, and we need all the conservatives and people that love our country to step up and help push me over the finish line here. It's an expensive campaign to donate and find out how to volunteer. DerekMerrin.com. That's Merrin. Derek, great to have you on the show. We'll talk again soon. Hey, Scott, have a great week.